Hi, my name is Catherine Lord, and I want to welcome you to the wonderful world of puppies. I have been a breeder of standard schnauzers for 25 years and have produced many breeding champions. In this video, we are going to help you understand what's involved in having a litter. I'm going to show you an actual delivery, followed by the steps of weaning, then a question and answer period with veterinarian Dr. Rick Kunze, ending with the breeder's discussion that'll cover many topics. Now, let's go inside and begin. By now you should know your bitch is pregnant. It is recommended that you assemble your whelping box 1 to 2 weeks in advance so that your bitch can become accustomed to sleeping in it. I'd like to suggest a few products that you might want to have on hand. First, you should have a milk substitute, such as Just Born Formula, Espalac, or Havalac. These are used to supplement the puppies if the mother has a large litter or if a puppy needs extra milk. Of course, with your milk formulas, you need baby bottles, either a 2-ounce or 4-ounce. The next product is Milk Aid. Milk Aid helps aid the bitch in producing a healthy quantity of milk for her puppies. The next products, you need some form of glucose and vitamins. A good example is Pediatric Stat or NutriDrops. Again, these products will help your weak puppies. It will give them more energy and keep them going while you are bottle feeding. The next product is Benebac Gel. You should have some type of product on hand to control puppy diarrhea if the need should arise. I personally use Benebac, which needs to be refrigerated, and find it to be quite effective. If you have puppies with diarrhea, you have miserable puppies. For your whelping box, you should have a heat lamp. You need some type of heat source if you don't have a heat lamp to keep the puppies warm. For this delivery, we used a product called Sterilon. You can use either Sterilon or Love Pads or some type of whelping pad that is not too thick to help your puppies move about the box easily. When they have to move on newspaper, they tire very quickly. The whelping pad gives them good footing so that they can get to the mother easily. Another thing you must have on hand during your delivery are towels. You will be going through towels, not only to help stimulate or dry off the puppies, but also perhaps to grab a puppy as it is being delivered. These or similar products are what we feel you should have on hand. You might want to consult with your veterinarian. You ought to be prepared to be home 3 to 4 days prior to the delivery. The gestation period is normally 63 days. Sometimes a bitch will come earlier, sometimes a few days later. It is recommended that you start taking her temperature twice a day the week before to determine what is normal for your bitch. What you want to do is watch for the drop. For an example, if the temperature during that first week is normally 100.6, for a few days it will fluctuate between 99 and 100 degrees. Suddenly it will drop to 98.4 and then go right back to 99.6. Your puppies are probably on their way. It is possible to miss the temperature drop, but by checking it twice a day, you should see it. However, not all breeders feel that this is an accurate method of determining an oncoming delivery. It is normal for her to refuse food the day before and the day of delivery. She will be restless and have to relieve herself frequently. Watch your bitch. You know her best. She should be on a diet high in protein and calcium, along with a vitamin supplement. Every breed is different. I recommend that you speak with your vet or someone involved in your breed.
The first and most important thing you need to do is set up your whelping box 1 to 2 weeks in advance to let your bitch become accustomed to it. The whelping box, which was used for this delivery, was created and developed by Phone Run Corporation, and we'd like to show you how easy it is to assemble. In the box you will find 4 units: the 4 puppy rails, 2 corner braces, the folded wall unit, and a folded floor tray. First, you want to square up the outer body section and place it on top of the tray. Make sure to align the black Velcro on the door flap with the black Velcro on the tray. Fold up the flaps of the tray and secure the Velcro. Next, slide the 2 long rails through the openings on each side of the box, lining up the Velcro on the edge of the rail with the Velcro on the inside wall. On each end of the short rails, you'll find a plastic bracket with Velcro attached. Place the brackets on top of the long rail lining up the Velcro and press down to adhere the Velcro. Mount the 2 braces onto the front corners. This will stabilize the wall when the door is down. The box is made of a corrugated polypropylene plastic that is non-toxic, durable, and can easily be scrubbed and disinfected. The plastic is scored and cut in certain areas for easy folding. The black Velcro on the front of the box is used to secure the door open to let the mother enter and exit the box easily. By sliding the latches outward, you can secure the door closed to contain the puppies. We recommend that you hold on to the shipping carton for storage because the box can be used again for several litters. Now that your whelping box is assembled, you're ready for the delivery.
The delivery has begun. The bitch is into heavy labor. She's doing a lot of heavy panting, a little shivering. This is very normal. She's cold and frightened. I do want to mention that I do put my bitches on raspberry tea as soon as I know that they are pregnant. It does seem to help in the delivery. Here you're seeing her pant very heavily, and now there is a contraction. The contractions will usually be followed by some continued nesting and shredding and digging. This is all very normal. That is another hard contraction. She will be resting in between. Please note that the breast is now free of hair so that the puppies can get to the nipples easily. In this particular dog, we had to shave it. Some dogs will just shed their breast hair. On this particular delivery, the first contraction began at 2:15. The first puppy arrived at 3:15. Here you'll see I'm comforting the bitch, rubbing her stomach a little bit. That is another contraction. You want to reassure your bitch. She's scared, especially if this is her first litter. That is another contraction. Don't be surprised as that puppy comes down the canal if your bitch lets out a scream. This is normal. The puppy has just come down. It is in the birth canal. As it is delivered, it will stretch the birth canal, which will hurt. The puppy has come out. You want to let it continue to deliver naturally. Don't pull it out. This puppy is still in its sack. The body has come through, the back feet first. The head is still being delivered. And there is the head. The puppy is still connected to the umbilical cord and the afterbirth. You want to let that also deliver naturally. Do not pull it out. The first thing you want to do is get the sac away from the head and the mouth area so that that puppy can start breathing on its own. Clean the head area with the towel. And allow the mom to take a look at what she's just had. You must also keep track of the number of afterbirths that are delivered. Here you can see the puppy and the sac on the puppy, and the afterbirth is still hanging from it. If the mother does not chew the cord herself, cut the cord about 3 inches away from the puppy. Make sure you have some dental floss or string or thread on hand to tie off that umbilical cord if it bleeds. Of course, you want to rub the puppy down vigorously. You want to stimulate the blood circulation, and you want to hear that puppy let out a little cry knowing that it's breathing normally. The umbilical cord, which is now on the back of the puppy, it's wrapped around the puppy, will dry up in about 2 days and fall off. On a first-time mother, she's curious. She doesn't know quite what's happened, so she's just sort of looking the puppy over. But be sure that you're there for the delivery on a new mother, because very often they won't know what to do. You want to try to get that puppy dry as soon as you can. And by now you should have a heat lamp on, or you should have some kind of heating pad available to the puppy. Here you see the mom trying to chew the cord. That is natural and it's okay. Labor has now begun on the second puppy. This was a large puppy and difficult. That's a very heavy contraction. And the puppy has come down into the birth canal. If you feel back there, you can actually feel that it's very hard. And we wanted to keep contractions going. So once I checked to see that the puppy was there, I now started to move the dog to get her moving so the contractions would continue. You'll see I've lifted her up. The puppy is still in that birth canal. There's another hard contraction. Now normally I would have a box for the other puppies to keep them out of the way at this time, but I knew this was a small litter, so I allowed that puppy to stay in the box with her. Again, I've moved her. The puppy is right there, but it's so large that she's having trouble delivering it. The first puppy was only 6 ounces. This puppy was 11. You can see that the tongue and the nose were exposed. The sac is off the face. So I've wiped away the fluid from the nose and tongue area, so I know that it's breathing oxygen only, not fluid. Again, I've lifted her. The puppy is in the canal. Now I've pulled the vulva back. To help that puppy come through. And there it is delivered. 2 hours have passed between the first puppy and the second puppy. I'm letting her do the cleaning on the puppy because the sac is off the face area. However, I will shortly go in with a towel and clean the fluid out of the mouth. You should be praising her throughout this. This is a very difficult thing for her to be doing. You can see a little bit of the fluid still around the mouth area. That is what I want to go in and get out of the mouth now. Once the afterbirth is delivered and the cord is cut, again, you'll rub your puppy vigorously. Get that blood circulating. Let that puppy cry a little bit. You want to check the sex and note the weight of every puppy as they are delivered, because you will be weighing them daily to make sure that they have put weight on. You should encourage the puppies to go on the mother's nipples. This will also help to stimulate more delivery. And again, you should have a heat lamp on them or some kind of heat source to keep those puppies warm. I keep my room at about 80 degrees during the first 10 days. Even though she looks a little on the settled side, it is concerning that she's not quite finished. The canal was so open after those other 3 puppies were born, that the 4th puppy slipped out quickly. Here you can see it in the canal, again removing the sac from the head, cleaning the head and the mouth, and the mother is beginning to do a little bit more with each puppy. Normally I would be in a little bit faster, but because we were filming this, we left the puppy alone for a few minutes. You have seen the puppy in the sac, the umbilical cord, and the afterbirth. The cord was cut. The mother did eat the afterbirth. We only usually allow the bitches to eat 1 or 2 of the afterbirths, otherwise you'll have a lot of diarrhea. Again, we're rubbing the puppy down vigorously. I do check for railing of the lungs, and if so, we shake them down. Weigh the puppy immediately, and then return them to the mother. She is now settled down. The delivery is over. She's stimulating every puppy. Puppies cannot urinate and defecate on their own. The mother must do it. There's an old saying that a quiet litter is a contented litter. If your puppies are crying, there's a problem, and the problem usually is that the mother is not stimulating her puppies. So I usually suggest that you take either a washcloth or a gauze pad or a cotton ball and make sure that every puppy has been stimulated to urinate and defecate. Before you know it, 2 weeks have passed, the eyes have opened, they can hear, and you have cute, adorable puppies. Now, let me show you where we go from here to ensure a healthy litter. Dr. Kunze, we have just seen the delivery of a litter where all went fairly well. However, breeders always say, call your vet when the bitch has had contractions for a long time. How long is long, and how severe should the contractions be?
Okay, let's start off with the 3 stages of labor. Because the first stage of labor usually occurs within 24 hours before the birth of the puppies. The first stage of labor, the bitch gets restless. She starts to build a nest. She'll often start to pant. Sometimes they'll even throw up. Okay, so if a bitch vomits, it doesn't mean that she's sick. Okay, usually within 8 to 12 hours before she goes into forceful contractions, her body temperature will drop. Doesn't always happen, but it often does, and usually will drop a couple of degrees. Breeders often like to see the temperature drop to about 99 degrees. Once that happens, usually within 12 hours, she's going to go into forceful contractions. Now, the second stage of labor begins after the cervix fully dilates and the fetus drops down in the birth canal and starts coming in contact with the cervix. Once that occurs, forceful labor begins. That's when she goes into the forceful, strong contractions. Once the bitch goes into forceful, strong contractions, you should have a puppy within 2 hours. If within 2 hours after forceful contractions you don't have a puppy, then the bitch may be in difficulty, and at that time you might have to call your veterinarian. There's various things that could cause delayed contractions and delayed labor. The puppy may be too large for the birth canal. This is especially true if it's a small litter and a small bitch, especially in the toy breeds. Toy breeds also have a tendency to have what they call primary uterine inertia. That's when the uterus itself doesn't have strong enough muscle contractions to push the fetus through the birth canal. And these bitches often will need help with oxytocin, and sometimes a cesarean section will be necessary because they just don't have the force. So you have to sort of know your breed and know your particular bitch. If a puppy is being presented in the wrong position, that also can cause a problem and a delay. And sometimes you'll have to intervene and literally go in with a sterile gloved finger into the vagina and reposition the puppy so it can be presented in the right presentation so the puppy can pass through the birth canal. The birth canal may be too small for the size of the puppy's head. This is a common problem in dogs like Boston Terriers and English Bulldogs. the head might be too big to get through. And the rule of thumb is that the canal has to be a minimum of 1.5 inches in each direction, up and down and sideways, and lots of times in a bulldog it's often squished this way and the head can't get through. So if there's straining and the puppy just can't get through, then those particular dogs often will need a cesarean section.
Straining for how long?
If the bitch is straining for more than a couple of hours and she doesn't give birth, she probably needs help. If a puppy is in the canal, if that puppy isn't out of there within a half hour, you got a problem.
Approximately how long can a bitch go in between the delivery of each pup before you know there's a problem?
Usually puppies are presented within 15 minutes to 2 to 3 hours apart. Rule of thumb is if it's gone more than 4 hours between puppies, there may be a problem, so you ought to alert your veterinarian because there's a possibility of uterine inertia. And uterine inertia is when the uterus just doesn't have strong enough contractions to deliver the puppy. And if they're in there too long, you can get separations of the placenta and you could end up losing the litter. So 4 hours, I would say, would be the longest between puppies before you have to start worrying.
When should you bring the mother of the pups to the vet after the delivery is over, and why does the vet need to see her?
After delivery, if possible, you should bring the bitch to your veterinarian 12 to 24 hours, preferably no longer than that. The bitch should be examined to make sure that all the nipples are okay, that the milk is okay, there's no indication of any mastitis. He should do an internal on the bitch to make sure that there isn't any retention of fetuses that might be dead that you don't even know that are there, a retained placenta. And she should be checked out well. I recommend most of the time that a bitch receive an oxytocin injection. This helps the milk let down. It helps also contract down the uterus. It also helps stop hemorrhage on the inside of the uterus. Also has a settling effect on the bitch.
Why should you have your dog seen by a vet before you breed her? And are there any special tests that should be done?
I recommend that the bitch, also the sire, be examined. But with the bitch, I recommend that she should be examined before she goes into the heat that you wish to breed her. You want to make sure she doesn't have any congenital abnormalities that make it so she shouldn't be used for breeding. She should be checked for any indications of parasites, communicable diseases, or any endocrine abnormalities that could possibly interfere with pregnancy. Her general health needs to be determined. She also has to be checked as far as her oral hygiene is concerned. It's been found recently that bitches that have periodontitis, periodontal disease, should have their teeth cleaned prior to her being used for breeding, because when she cuts the umbilical cord with her teeth after the puppies are born, the bacterium from her mouth can get into their umbilical cords and get inside the puppy and actually lead to septic condition. So there's various health situations that you have to make sure there isn't a problem with. Also, every bitch should be checked for brucellosis, you know, one way or the other, even if she hasn't been used for breeding. And the sire needs to be checked also. There's often discrimination, and only the bitch is requested to be checked, where it's also important to check the sire. Also, the bitch should be checked for parasites and wormed to make sure that she's very healthy before she's used for breeding, and she needs to be immunized against all the local diseases, because she needs to have a good antibody level to be able to transfer immunity to her puppies.
You mentioned earlier about the bitch being in good condition. Why is it important that a bitch not be overweight before you breed her?
Overweight bitches have a much higher incidence of uterine inertia, where they have difficulty with the contractions of the uterus. Also, a fat bitch will sometimes have an oversized puppy, which also predisposes to a problem with giving birth, because if you have an overweight bitch that doesn't have good muscle contractions and good muscle tone, that's trying to pass a fat puppy, then you're going to have a double problem, because you have a fat puppy trying to get through the birth canal with weak contractions. The puppy's weight is determined by the bitch. It's not determined by the male. And an overweight bitch often will have fat puppies, which will cause a problem. that and their general health is not as good. The mother is better off being a little bit on the lean side than too heavy. And you should exercise the bitch while she's pregnant to keep her muscle tone in good condition.
What supplements should be given to the bitch while she is nursing? And what kind of food should she be fed, and how often should she be fed?
Supplementation really, a lot depends on the bitch and the kind of dog. If the bitch has a history of previous problems with milk fever or eclampsia or problems with hypocalcemia, that bitch should be started on calcium supplementation before she even whelps, probably a couple of weeks before the whelping date, and continue with calcium supplementation like calcium lactate all the way through until weaning. Now, a large breed of dog that has no history of hypocalcemia, that is on a very high calcium, good quality diet, such as one of the higher protein foods, the major foods from the major food producers, or give her a puppy food, which has more nutrients than just your maintenance food. Those dogs often don't need supplementation. I recommend feeding 2 to 3 times the normal maintenance amount of food to the nursing mother until at least 5 or 6 weeks. And I like to feed them 3 times a day. So if the bitch before she was pregnant was getting 1 cup a day, I would recommend giving her 1 cup 3 times a day while she's nursing. And you don't want her to get too fat while she's nursing, but that usually doesn't occur because the bitch requires so many more calories to produce milk than she does to produce puppies.
Generally, when do you start worming and giving vaccinations to the pups, and how often?
Worming, a lot depends on where you live. If you live in the southern parts of the United States where it's warm and swampy and there's a high incidence of hookworms and roundworms, it's recommended that you start worming the puppies as early as 5 days old, because they can be getting parasites from the mother's uterus and also through her milk and actually become anemic, such as from hookworms, before you even have any indication that there's a problem. And they can have serious problems before you'll even see any parasite eggs in their stool. So under that situation, 5 days, you can start worming them. The CDC recommends that puppies be wormed every 2 weeks until they're 12 weeks old because of the public health significance of the puppies passing hookworm eggs and roundworm eggs, which can have public health significance, especially in children. As far as vaccinations are concerned, there again, that's a regional concern also. If you're in an area where distemper is of major concern, the puppies should receive a distemper measles booster when they're about 5 or 6 weeks old. After that, it's recommended that they receive their normal distemper, hepatitis, parainfluenza, parvo, corona possibly, or leptospirosis, depending on where you live, minimally every 3 to 4 weeks. Now they recommend up until 20 to 22 weeks of age, because it has now been found that blocking antibodies from the mother's milk can block the effectiveness of the vaccine that you're giving the puppies for up to 22 weeks. And it's been found that vaccination failures in young dogs is not due to the inefficiency of the vaccine, but the puppies were not vaccinated to an old enough period of time to overcome blocking antibodies from the mother's milk. So now I would recommend immunizations at least until 20 weeks of age. And what vaccine you use depends, really where you live, and you should rely on your veterinarian's advice on that.
What do you do if the mother won't nurse her puppies?
Well, a lot depends on what the cause is. If it's because the bitch is just very, very nervous, which is common in your hyper-type of breed, especially if this is her first litter, you really need to try to calm her down. Okay. A little bit of whiskey even sometimes helps, just to calm them down. If that doesn't work, sometimes your veterinarian will have to prescribe some type of sedative or tranquilizer to calm her down, because often what it is, it's a form of hysteria, and if you can calm the bitch down, often that's all that is needed. The important thing is you have to maintain the puppy's body temperature, not let them get too cool, because a cool puppy will often be rejected by the mother. So if she doesn't want to nurse them and take care of them right away, get them in an incubator and keep their body temperature at least over 94 degrees. If they drop below that, the mother will reject them. So keep the puppies warm. You might have to hand feed them for a while. Offer the puppies to the mother, comfort her. And if all else fails, you might have to hand feed them. Now, as far as hand feeding is concerned, if you don't have any commercial milk at home, you can make a temporary formula yourself at home by using some things that's in everybody's house. 1 cup of homogenized milk, 3 egg yolks, 1 tablespoon of corn oil, and just 1 little eyedropper of some baby vitamins, and that will supply 1 calorie per cc, which is about the same as the commercial milk. So you can use that until you get a chance to get the commercial milk at your veterinarians if it's needed.
But if you have to use commercial feeding, then the puppies will not be getting any of the necessary protection.
If the puppies do not get the colostrum, this of course interferes with the acquired immunity. If you're capable of doing it, you can try to milk the bitch like a cow and try to accumulate her milk and put it in these little bottles that you can buy in the pet shop for dogs. And you have to make the hole bigger because it's just too small. So cut the hole a little bit bigger with a scissor and milk the bitch and warm the milk up to about 100 degrees and try to get some of the colostrum in all the puppies. The more colostrum you get in, the better. You have to get it in the first 24 hours to be most effective. And then you can supplement with your formulas. But if you can get that colostrum in, it makes a big difference. If you can't get colostrum, then you need to start your immunizations at an earlier age, possibly as early as 3 weeks. You need to consult your veterinarian on that.
Even though a mother's work is never done, nursing and tending to her pups, it is important she still has time to get outside to play and interact with other family members. She still needs time to be just a dog. The puppies are now 3.5 weeks old, and it's time to start weaning them. You won't do a complete weaning until they're almost 5.5 to 6 weeks of age, but you need to start getting them off of the mother. The mother is beginning to have sore breasts. The puppies have started to develop teeth, and you really have to give her a break. Also, the puppies are demanding a big supply of milk from her, which she can't keep up with. She's got to have a period that she's away, and at this point you're seeing that she's away for more and more time. And the puppies are waking up hungry and crying. So you've got to get her away and start feeding them for her. There are several types of gruel mixtures. Every breeder has their own. I have found one that has worked very successfully for me over the years, and the puppies do seem to thrive on it. The products that you use for the gruel mixture, they're all something you can buy at the grocery store, except for a couple of the items, which you'll have to get from your local pet store. As you can see, we have rice, pablum. We have milk, Just Born formula, or Espalac, either one. There's baby beef, and there's sugar in that bowl. You'll need a puppy pan. Initially, we suggest that you start out with either the 8-inch puppy pan, or a cake pan, or even a pie tin. They'll all work. As they get older and they start walking more and you want to keep them out of the middle of it, we suggest the larger puppy pan with the cone in the center. But we're going to show you how to make up this mixture, and from there we also will show you how to finger feed the puppies. That is the first step in getting the puppies to eat. And then we'll show you a couple of puppies who are beginning to learn to lap the food. But at this point, we have one who is still being finger fed and a couple that are now lapping. So you'll be able to see how to do both processes. All right, let's make up this initial gruel mixture. Pour your just-born formula into the saucepan, adding a little milk and mixing it well. Do not bring this to a boil. Test it with your finger for a comfortable temperature. As you saw, we mixed the just-born formula with just a little milk. When you first start, you may just want to use just the just-born formula. I'd like to start bringing some milk in so that I can wean them off of the just-born formula onto just milk, and then eventually I mix the milk with water until finally it's just the puppy food plus water. When you begin, I only have 4 puppies in this litter, so I just use a little bit of pablum. Take your milk that has been warmed, pour it in. We're going to put in a couple of teaspoons of the baby beef, maybe 3, and mash it down and mix this up until it's real soupy. Make sure everything is very well mixed. When it is real soupy and you feel that the consistency is pretty good and they can lap a lot of it, you want to encourage them to lap. So I take sugar, puppies love sugar, and sprinkle it across the top. Just a couple of sprinkles. And that's all the gruel mixture is initially. We're going to bring one of the puppies in here to show you how to finger feed, and then we're going to show you how the other puppies like the gruel mixture. I'd like to introduce you to Claudine. Claudine's my assistant. She does a lot of the dirty work around here. Today we're going to show you how to finger feed the puppy. This is the smallest one of the litter and has needed some extra help. We'll finger feed him, and then Claudine's going to go into the pen and show you how to get them to start licking from the bowl itself. Now this little one, you put your finger in, and you're going to have to actually open up the mouth and put it inside. Now he's had this a few times before. And then let him lick it off the finger. This is the beginning, because licking is not a natural process at this point for puppies. They'd much rather suck. And once they've done this, if you can get them to put the head right in, and while they're licking, he's not. See if you can get them to lap like that. Very gently, but you want to see them starting. And that's the beginning of finger feeding. It is a slow process. You have to become very patient with the puppies. There's no fast way to do this, but all of a sudden you'll see the older ones or the stronger ones standing up and licking all by themselves, as you will see in the other one, the other puppies who are also the same age as this little one. All right, now as you can see, Claudine is in the pen with the puppies. We are going to try to let the puppies see the food. They've been seeing and eating the food for the last couple of days. The larger puppies are quick to learn. All you have to do is encourage them, and then they seem to understand. They have all been finger fed at some point. When they no longer are interested in the food, we do let them back off. Now even the little one, which you saw earlier, we'll try to encourage him a little bit too. He's just a little bit further behind the other puppies. So that, and as you see, when we finish and the puppies no longer seem interested, we will let Mom come in. This food is very nutritional for her. We are now at the stage where the puppies are eating solid food. Initially, we grind the food in a blender. I like to use a kibble that is small in size and easy for the puppies to chew. I also like to add 2 or 3 tablespoons of canned meat and hot water, mixing it well. I use the puppy pan with a cone in the middle to keep the puppies from walking through their food. It also helps to keep them clean. Now, let's go watch them eat. Let's begin today by giving us your name, your kennel, and the type of dog you breed. Linda?
I'm Linda Gadice, Tanamichi Akitas, and this little girl here is Kana. She's 11 weeks old, with her little brother here is Ricky.
I'm Helen Shue, Lyco Dalmatians, babysitting for Ricky.
I'm Gordon Souza, Breezy Labradors. I've had Labradors for 20 years. And this little guy, my kids are calling Simba. He's a yellow Labrador Retriever, and he's 7th generation now of our breeding.
I'm Betty McDonald, and I raise Newfoundlands. I've been doing it since 1964, and I have with me a 3.5-month-old puppy called Annie.
I'm Kathy DiGiacomo, and I'm Cathan Maltese. I've been breeding Maltese for about 20 years. This is a 6-year-old Maltese. It's not a puppy. His name is Champion Cathan Fable Little Star. We name all the dogs after rock and roll records from the 50s and 60s, so that's how he got his name. And I now also judge Maltese.
My name is Susan Patman. I'm a 2nd-generation dog breeder. Our kennel name is Charter, and this is my dog Tom, and he's Champion Jacques Attribute, and we have had Cocker Spaniels since 1964.
Okay. Now, you've all seen the delivery on the video. What kind of problems do you encounter, and what kind of things do you do to make the delivery easier? Anyone?
Well, there are many different things that can make a bitch deliver easier. First of all, her prenatal care is very important. During delivery, I offer water to assist her. They're usually very, very hot and panting. If I have a puppy that is having difficulty, I take the bitch outside into the kennel, and she usually starts to squeeze there, feeling that she's going to pass a stool, and usually I get a puppy out. Other things I do is feed the raspberry tea, which I feel is an excellent substitute during the prenatal care. And just caring for the bitch is your main concern.
Anybody else?
Well, one thing that I find is, especially on a first-time mother, is they're so scared that they're doing the wrong thing or that they're going to make a mess in your house. Sometimes when they deliver the first puppy, it's almost the same feeling and pushing and motion like they were going number 2. And they're waiting for you to yell at them. And a lot of times they'll hold back and not push the puppy out. And so I find the best thing to do on a first-time mother is, 1, keep the house very calm. Get the kids playing outside, and you don't need 16 neighbors coming in for their science lesson for the day, at least until she gets going. And the best thing is to take her outside every half an hour to an hour, just for a little walk. It kind of shakes the puppies out, and she gets all aired out well, and that means that there's more room for the puppies to pass. We end up usually having quite a few puppies on the lawn with this procedure, but it's better than having a puppy suffocating. And so I'm always ready. The first thing everybody talks about when they're going to deliver is having their heat lamp or their rubbing alcohol, and the first thing I check for is the batteries on my flashlight, because they usually deliver in the middle of the night, and it's like I said, they'll go and try and run behind a bush and do it in secret so that they won't be in trouble with you, because they love you the most, and that's their priority. And so they need lots of reassurance. And so I find by giving those plenty of trips out, and also making sure that you don't feed her a lot of heavy meals right before the delivery, that really helps with the whole thing. The books say that dogs don't eat right before the delivery. They'll stop eating and then you know the puppies are coming. But with Labradors, they're like half goat. And they don't even chew the food. They just inhale it. And we have mothers that have eaten before delivery and in the middle of delivery. And so you can't always go by that.
Yeah.
So I find that's one good thing, is to make the meals small, cut them down, and give her easy to digest things before the delivery on top of the trips out. And I find it makes it easier for everybody.
Right.
That and the quiet house is a big help.
Yeah, because we did mention that very often the bitches will not eat the day before or the day of delivery, but they do.
They do.
Occasionally. Anybody else?
I was going to say really just observing the bitch, and because they all have their own technique. As you said, the eating, the majority of ours seem to enjoy eating right through the whole whelping. So it's not just keeping them hydrated with fluids. It's they may be on roast beef and potatoes and chicken franks. They've tremendous meals. We do a lot of exercising in between. I think when they're full inside, as long as they're not nauseous and throwing up, that is pushing down on the uterus and helping the puppies to be expelled. So this breed enjoys eating.
Yeah. Kathy, now, do you walk your bitches?
Well, sometimes I'll take them from one side of the kitchen to the other, and they just run back to the whelping box, and that's probably the same as running them around the block. But one thing that we've noticed, that's the difference with the toy dogs. They don't have as many puppies, and you know, I hear the people with the bigger dogs saying it'll take 10, 12 hours sometimes to have an entire litter. And the vets tell people, or different people tell them, that let your dog be in heavy labor for 2-3 hours. We find in a toy dog, you absolutely cannot do this. If they're in heavy labor for an hour, we call the vet up and I tell them that the dog has been in heavy labor for 3 hours and that I have to meet you right away. By the time they meet you, it's already 2 hours at that point, and if you were to let them go that long, they would be exhausted and they would not be able to push out another puppy. So if you have a toy dog and it's in heavy labor for an hour, and I mean heavy, not one contraction and 20 minutes later another one, but call your vet because you very possibly have a problem. And even if you don't, when you get there, he'll reassure you and help you have that puppy anyway, but I would call after 1 hour.
Sue?
We would put cockers in an X pen and let them go around, but a clean X pen, a very clean X pen, and let them walk around. But again, you have to use your flashlight if you're out in the middle of the night because there could be a puppy in there on the bottom of the X pen.
Now, Betty, you sometimes take them in the car.
Well, if I have to go to the vet, I take them in the car, and I try to take another person because they are very likely to have a puppy in the car. The motion of the car might start labor or restart labor. So I take another person, maybe let that person drive, and I carry towels and a box, something that I can bring them home with. Again, I never go outside without a good heavy terry cloth towel because that's where we often find the puppies or the mothers like to whelp. I would be very wary if my bitch went more than 3 hours between puppies, or if she seemed distressed. And of course, one does know their own dogs. I think it's really important to have a good relationship with a veterinarian and to have his night telephone number. You don't want to be going to an emergency vet. You want to find a vet that you can work with that is willing to get up and meet you at any time of the day.
You mentioned something about a box. Well, somebody did when you
I think
have
we-
puppies.
Right, the whelping box. We
The
use
whelp-
well, not a whelping box, but I use a
box.
box with a heating pad in. I have a heat
So
lamp
I-
on my bitch in the whelping box. And then from there, the puppies go, each one, after I weigh them and make sure everything's all right, I'll put that puppy in. After she's done, I will put the puppy back in with her. When I see her starting to contract and start to see the vagina swell, I take that puppy away and put it back in the heating pad box to keep it warm. Because when a puppy is nursing, it is stimulating contractions. But if you have too many in with her, in her frenzy to whelp or in her pain from contraction, she could possibly step on and damage a puppy. And again, the main thing is just comforting the dog. I mean, Dallas happen to have big litters. We've had up to 13, 14 litters. And you can go, I've gone as long as 30 hours delivering puppies. So you have to know your bitch. I have one bitch who can deliver 10 puppies in 4 hours. So it varies on the animal. And constantly giving water. I mean, I have offered bitches food, but it's mainly the water that I'm concerned with, the food they'll get afterwards.
See, we didn't show a box being used to put
Right.
the puppies in during this delivery, but I know you have another type of problem with the newfies.
Well, we have a lot of fluid, and so you would have a lake sometimes in the whelping box. I'm constantly cleaning up, putting new papers in, new towels in, and so I definitely have another box on the side that I don't use a heating pad, but I use a heat lamp over it. Dry the puppies, and while the mother is actively in labor, I keep the puppies off of her. And as they're born, I will let them nurse. Maybe I'll put 2 or 3 on her. Just be sure they're rotated. But you want to keep the puppies dry and certainly safe from the mother.
I also find that by putting them in the box with the heating pad, it helps the cord to dry out faster, so the mother doesn't chew on the cord as
Right.
much. And you can tell which one is the first puppy right away because it
Shriveled
does
up.
have the driest cord.
Oh, that's interesting.
It does. And I don't let my bitches, usually they never get the chance to, I cut the cords.
I do too.
I
Yeah.
tie them off.
Yeah.
And only eating 1 placenta, I think that's very important. Too many
Right.
placentas and you're gonna have a very sick bitch.
Yeah. How many of you do allow your bitches to eat placentas, and what ratio? I mean, how many do you, if you have a litter of 10 or 13?
1, she has
Just
1.
one.
We fight for the rest, but I usually win.
Okay.
But keep a checkpoint. That
Yeah.
each puppy, you have a list that you've got that placenta, not that it's staying in there.
Yes.
I always not only keep count, but we very often have puppies without placentas. I always watch the discharge. If the discharge is clear or slightly pink, fine. But if you start getting a green or a black discharge, then there might be an indication that there's a dead puppy, and I want to get them out as fast as I can.
Or even the
It's-
next day. I mean, the green fluid might indicate a retained placenta.
Right.
Which, of course, you do want to get the
Right.
bitch to the vet the next day. Gordon, what about you?
Well, I agree totally with what you said because it is good for them to have a placenta or two because there's things in there that release hormones and bring on milk. But there's no question we have big litters, same as the Dalmatians, and if you let her eat every one, she'd just be like Montezuma's Revenge the next day. And I find when she gets loose, now her milk somehow
Right.
makes the puppies loose, and now you have a real domino effect.
Yeah.
It's a chicken and egg mess. So then you don't know what to do because now her milk. When my wife was pregnant, they told her, not to eat at Taco Bell or whatever because it goes right into the baby. It makes the baby nuts. Then I'll be kicking her at night. And it's the same thing when she was nursing. They said, watch what you eat when you're nursing the first month or two. She was breastfeeding. So it's the same things that you think of on people. You don't always. It's common sense with the dogs.
Kathy, what about you with the toy breeds?
Well, I guess we go to the opposite end again. If the dogs were to eat one, it would be as if the lab or the Newfie was eating 12. It would be the same reaction. But the other problem with it is the fact that the placenta is too big a lot of times for a toy dog. And if they attempt to eat it, they can choke on it because it's very difficult to chew. And I did have one dog myself that did start to chew on it, and I managed to grab the end of it and pull it right back out of the dog's throat. And they had not chewed it apart enough that they could have choked to death on it. So we don't let them eat any of them.
As far as the Akitas go, their normal litters are 4 to 6, but they have been known certainly to have them up to 10. Our Akitas have eaten as many as 10. What I question is if they were out in the wild, they would normally just eat the placentas. As far as the diarrhea, it isn't really a watery diarrhea, but you'll get a very loose, soft, non-formed stool, maybe a couple of them. But I think it's a good cleansing also. If it went beyond and became very watery, yes, then we would probably have to give them something. But no, we let them have the placentas.
Interesting. The theory is the reason they ate the placentas in the wild was the smell, to prevent the predators from finding the young.
Interesting. Sue, what about you?
We didn't let them eat the placentas, mostly because they have such long hair, and unless you shave your bitch down, they get the runs, and it's a lot more care that you have to do. And to keep the whelping box sanitary, it's important. So you would be
Depends on the
bathing.
breed.
So it does depend on the breed.
That's true. I would have a lot of babies.
Yeah.
Gordon, you had mentioned you have a technique that I think a lot of breeders would be interested in, of drying the puppies when they first come out, that I had not thought of before, and I thought it was fascinating.
Well, when they're first born, they're so clammy, and they're so cold, and that's why you use the heat lamp. But it still takes them a while before they toast up and they start looking relaxed in the pen. They're just all huddled up, shivering. And Mom's so busy delivering, usually when you have them on a separate box, it takes a little while where you worry about them in there. And we have the house like so hot to make up for that. We've always, for years, we kept the house like 80, 82 during the delivery, purposely and the heat lamp on a separate cardboard box where the puppies would go in between Mom delivering. And what happens in all this is Mom absolutely roasts. She can run a pretty high fever during the delivery too. And so I got an idea from a longtime breeder friend to use a hair dryer on the puppies as soon as they're born. It's just like when you come out of the shower and your hair is wet, you know how you feel. First thing out of the shower is like, whoa. And as soon as you dry off, you feel like $1,000,000 in the morning. And that's what you're doing for the puppy, the same thing. You see, if you dry them on that hot setting, then they're going from real cold clammy to real hot, like in one big giant change. It's too much of a shock, really, for their system. So when we dry them on the low setting. And I find that if they retain a little much too fluid, like they were just in the bag a little too long before they were born, and they're kind of like swallowing a little bit instead of breathing right, I find all that hair dryer action just stimulates them. It gets everything going, and they seem to cough out more of the fluid. We'll always sling a puppy, or we'll use a little baby suction thing on a puppy that has fluid. But I think that if the fluid stays down in there and the puppy's cold, it's guaranteed pneumonia. And a lot of times people say, oh, gee, we had this litter and they seemed all fine, but one of the puppies died when it was 2 days old. And how do you know that wasn't pneumonia? Because years ago we would lose, every other litter we would lose one puppy. And since we've been doing this hair dry thing, we've gone 5 or 6 litters without losing a puppy. I think it does give them a better start.
Yeah.
So the main thing is not to roast them. You don't want a toasted puppy or a poached puppy. You just want to get it up to the point where it feels like warm and normal temperature to your hand.
Yeah.
And then I find that they nurse better and more vigorously after they've had this warming up with the dryer too. When you put them on the nipple after that, boy, are they raring to go. Everything's really cooking.
Yeah.
So they seem to get a better drink of milk, which also sets them off, so
Yeah.
that they don't have a low blood sugar thing. Some puppies, they're so weak when they're born they don't get to drink right away. So if this can help them get their first drink, I think they have a much better start and much more stamina.
Yeah. Kathy, you wanted to talk a little bit more about the cutting or chewing of the umbilical cords on the bitches, with the bitches and their puppies.
Yes, and it's something that I think needs to be mentioned, because as you talk to other breeders, everyone always has something different to tell you, so you try to save it for when you're having, your own litter. But quite often the dogs that have undershot mouths if they were to try to cut the cord on the puppy, their teeth can go into the stomach and they can puncture the puppy. And not just the undershot breeds, but I worry about mine. If they were to grab it too vigorously, they can pull, they can rip it out of the stomach, or they can puncture the puppy. So I don't allow them to cut the cord. I do it myself. I tie it off, I cut it. I use different antiseptics on it, but you have to be very careful with your dog cutting the cord. We just don't do it at all. I don't know what other people do, but
Well, I had that
think
happen
that's what's smaller.
with a
Did you?
puppy. And my neighbor had to rush the puppy up. It was hemorrhaging through the umbilicus. And we had to put 3 or 4 stitches in the puppy. And I don't let them do it, but it was that I was having one puppy after the other and she got it. I shred them. I have my antiseptic. I also have my dental floss and my
Right,
sterile things. But I shred them because when you shred it, it automatically coagulates.
See, I
And-
didn't shred it. I cut it, but I cut it about 2 inches away, and I
Right.
find I've never had a bleeder.
Right. And if you shred, you'll never have a bleeder.
Right, and then the bitches always go back and chew it anyway.
Right, exactly.
So that, there'll be a shredding motion to
But
some point.
It is. But
Right.
as I say, I had that happen, and it's frightening to see the little blood
That
coming
also
out.
causes umbilical hernias
Yeah.
if the
Yes,
bitch
it does.
If it's too close, you'll have
Too
an
close,
umbilical hernia.
right.
Right.
yeah, we had one dog that she would get a hold of the cord afterward, is why I suggested putting the puppy in the box to dry the cord. And I watched her, and she put her paw on the stomach,
And pull.
grabbed a hold of the cord, and just pulled like this. So if she tugged too hard, she would have pulled it right out of his stomach. So we just sit there all the time and go like this and say, don't do that, don't do that. And then hopefully it'll dry quickly so we can stop.
I put a hemostat on
Do you?
about 1
Yeah, I
inch,
do that too.
and then she can't chew any further. She's going right down to that.
How long do you leave it on?
The hemostat? No, as soon as she chews down there, I take it off because she's done all the shredding. So again, you've got the coagulation. You shouldn't have any bleeding. And
Yeah.
then put some antiseptic on it.
Yeah. So what do you do when do you cut? Do you?
We tie them off with dental floss and cut them with the shears.
I find after looking at the video of you whelping the puppies that with Newfoundlands, I am in the box and doing a lot more. I want to get those puppies breathing, and I'm rubbing a lot more vigorously than you were. I'm shaking them to get the fluid out of their lungs. And another trick that I've learned that I have told many people, and it seems to have brought a lot of dogs to life, is when you just can't get them breathing. If I could use your puppy, I'll take my hands on the back of the nape of the neck, grab it, and go 1, 2. And you get a puppy to get that first scream, and then you've got them breathing. And many puppies that I would have passed off as losers have come back and been very vigorous puppies.
Yeah, we were very, very fortunate with the litter. I normally
Yes.
would be in also a lot more, but we had a small litter, and we had cameras rolling, so of course we had to stay out of the way.
I also break the sacks. I don't even wait till that
Yeah.
puppy's
Yeah.
out. I'm
Right.
like you.
I
I'm
do
in
too.
there
Yeah.
with
Right.
my hands and
Yeah.
breaking
Well,
those
you did see
sacks.
that on the video.
Right.
Right.
Before
I won't
it's
wait.
even
Right.
out. But I also, another trick I learned years ago as a child when my parents were delivering, a drop of whiskey on the tongue for stimulant if you've got a real listless puppy. And I've saved many little puppies. I've got
A
my
brandy,
little whiskey,
yeah.
little whiskey bottle sitting there with the eyedropper.
Wow. Gordon, let me ask you, do you cut? Do you let the bitch do it? Do you?
Oh no, she would just tear at it. She would yank them mercilessly. We cut, and we always cut, like you said, we cut this way jagged. Because if I cut straight across, I do get a lot of bleeding.
I've never had
And then I have to go tie them all up. And I use like the white cotton. It's like coat thread. It's thicker than the regular thread. I don't want the plastic fibers against
Right.
them. I want the natural. And I spray them with that tamed iodine spray. You get it at the drugstore. It works great. And what I do is I put them in a separate box with the heat lamp, and we take shifts nursing. While they're nursing, I'm supervising. There's not a minute the first week that she's not with human company. We take all our vacation time. Somebody sleeps down in the room with the puppies.
Right.
And so she doesn't have a chance to yank the cords, because she will. They will
Yeah.
get little hernias. And so I find by having them in that separate box, half on and half off, drying under the lamp, I find just what you were saying. They dry right out. And usually within a half a day, I can take that 1 inch or inch and a half little umbilical cord now, and I can cut it down since it's hard. Down so close now that she doesn't bother it. That's what I'll do. The next day I'll cut it shorter. And then she leaves it alone. We're all set.
Yeah.
I don't have any trouble.
do most of you use heat lamps or whelping pads, heating pads? What kind of things do you do to keep the puppies warm in the whelping box once they're all delivered and with mom?
Yeah, we use the heating lamp.
I use the heating lamp.
Also, the box happens to be under a nice vent, which
Uh-huh.
is blowing air. In the summertime, of course, with this breed, you don't have to worry quite as much as you would with your smaller breeds. But again, the bitches certainly needs to be cooled off frequently. And one thing is, when you put water in the box, it's really not always sufficient. It's really offering it to her, putting it right underneath her mouth with ice cubes, broth, chicken broth, beef broth, anything. They get tired of water too.
Yeah.
Any way to keep that fluid
Right.
going into her.
I know my bitches look at me. They look over at the bowl, and I have to bring it over, and then we'll sit there and we'll look over again and bring the bowl over. They
You
need-
become slaves.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it's. You sit there for a week and you bring water or hand feed in the whelping box because you don't want her to not get the food, and beg her to eat and beg her to drink, and
But it makes a difference.
makes a
I-
big difference.
That's interesting what you say, because I certainly know people who, they have them, they go to work, they don't worry, that it makes a difference.
Makes
a
All that
difference
in the
attention
puppies.
that mother's getting.
Well, and we don't lose puppies.
Right, we don't
Exactly.
lose puppies.
Exactly. Gordon, what do you offer your bitches during?
Well, first of all, just one real quick thing on that heat lamp.
Uh-huh.
The reason I like that better than the pad is because I can have a big cardboard box, way bigger than I need for the puppies, with a towel on the bottom, and I can shine the lamp like on an angle. And so now half the box is in the shade and half the box is in the sunny part. And the puppies, they will crawl. If they're warmed up and toasty, they'll crawl into the shade part because they're getting too hot. And the ones that are still a little bit wet and not feeling quite right, they'll go right under that heat part and they'll bake up. And it's unbelievable how they can feel the temperature. They'll go right to the part they want.
Yeah.
Or if you just have a pad that's baking them, they don't have the temperature control. Supposedly the thermostat in the little back of their head doesn't turn on to tell them how much to shiver for about a week. So they're like a snake, in the
Yeah.
almost like cold blood, that they can't
Right.
control their own temperature. So I like to give them that opportunity.
Yeah.
As-
And sometimes you'll see puppies all huddled together,
right.
and that usually
tells you.
indicates that they're
That worries
cold.
me. That
Yeah.
worries
They're
me when I
cold,
see
right.
that. I want to see them all stretched out like, you know.
Right.
So they go into the lip of the whelping box when they get too warm.
Exactly.
To
Right.
get away from the heat.
I will raise my heat lamp as the puppies get older.
Yes. Yeah.
The first day it may be down low over this small box, but again, it's focused into a corner of the whelping box, and then daily I raise it, so as they need less heat, they seem to be happier, and then you can tell, as I say, if they're cold by if they're piled on top
Right.
of each other.
What temperatures do you keep the litter box at, the whelping box at? When they're, and how long do you keep it? I mean, do you keep it at 80? Do you keep it at
I
90?
start at 80.
And
Every
you
day
keep
I
it
go
at
down
80?
a degree.
I keep
Right.
it at 80.
And by a week I'm down to room temperature.
Right.
Okay.
See, I keep it at 80 for about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I do too. Of course, during the summer months, it's a lot
Right,
easier.
it's
You
a
don't
lot
have to
easier, but in
worry.
winter, it's 4 weeks of 80-degree heat.
Yeah.
My puppies get hot, and they start panting.
Yeah.
They might be
And
2
Newfie
weeks.
coat.
Well, but they don't have too much more coat than yours when they're born.
Yeah.
But they are not huddled up. They're going to corners. They're trying to get away. They'll start whining, and they'll be panting even at 2 weeks. So I really don't take the temperature of the box. I can just tell if the puppies are happy by how they're reacting.
But you keep the room at about 80 degrees initially.
Well, maybe, but the light is more their
adding,
source of heat.
yeah.
And their mother, of course, they're warm with their mother. They can be
Sure.
outside in the middle of winter with a warm mother.
Sure, sure.
One thing about that heat bulb, my veterinarian says the infrared ones warm the puppy without dehydrating.
Right.
And that there's other heat lamp bulbs that they'll try and sell you at the drugstore, wherever you go to the
Hardware store.
hardware
Yes.
store,
And
and
they're
it's the
cheaper.
white kind that
The
you use for a
ones-
suntan.
The red.
And
the
all
red.
it does
Yes.
is
Twice the
totally
price.
overload and dehydrate the puppy. They're not the best thing for it.
The other thing too is that when you're using a heat lamp, you ought to be aware that once those eyes, the infrared, once those eyes start opening, that thing goes off,
Right.
because that's not good for their new
No.
eyes. What do you do?
Well, in the beginning, I used to use the heat lamp and the heating pad. And I would put the heating pad on half of the bottom of the box so they could crawl away. But then I just started with the lamp because we discovered that the heating pad can malfunction. Because it did happen to us once, and luckily we were home. I mean, I seem to be the voice of doom on everything we talk about. But I guess after you have so many litters, everything has to eventually happen to you.
It does.
And luckily I was home because it would have started to cook the box. So I don't think people should have a heating
No,
pad on
right.
if they are not home or if they are not in and out of the room constantly. Those puppies would have cooked.
Right.
So I stopped using the heating pad. And we do just use the heat lamp on half of the box so the mother can also get away from the light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's mainly the mother. The puppies stay more often, but the mother crawls away.
What about you, Sue?
We used heating pad in the box. We always kept the puppies separate while the bitch was whelping, and we found that it dried the umbilical cords out really well. But the lamp was the way to go. I don't like to have any kind of electrical cord in the whelping box, especially if you're giving your bitch water in there. That scares me.
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah, we only use the heating pad in the little cardboard box
Yeah,
for the
sorry,
puppies.
I do that too,
And then when
yes.
I would change them when they were real young, I'd heat it up and put them in there, but it was never in the box. Even when we built the puppy room, we had all the electric outlets, 4 foot, so when the puppies ran around, there was no way to get their little noses in. 'Cause
To
that-
avoid one last problem, and speaking of Joom, is I would be sure that the socket that you
Right.
put the light into is porcelain and not plastic, because this is going to be on day in, day out.
Right.
And there have been problems with, melting.
Exactly.
So sometimes you have to look a little farther, but you can find the porcelain sockets.
Now, what else do you give? We hear people talking about giving water to their bitches during delivery. What else do you give to your bitches during delivery?
ice chips.
Ice chips?
Is good.
Nutrical.
Nutrical.
I use Nutrical. It's easy to digest, it gives them a lot of energy, and I give them ice cream. They like it. I like it. They like it.
Sure.
I get broth, water.
Yeah.
Sometimes they look hungry. If it's been like, as I say, I've had 30 hours, I'll start to offer them some food, and they will hand feed a little bit because they're getting weak.
Yeah.
After 30 hours of
Delivery.
delivery. I don't know who's weaker, the bitch or me, but
Gordon, what do you give your bitch?
Well, I've done ice cream for years during the delivery because it does pick them up, and it's kind of fun for them too. I kind of like the frozen yogurt better than the ice cream, but it still does the same thing. I find, though, generally on a big litter, that the mother doesn't always have quite enough milk. And so it's a supply and demand thing, and really they don't need a lot of food the first day or two because their stomachs are a little raw from all this, but they do need fluids. And same thing, I go back to my wife when she was nursing. The doctor told her drink 10 glasses of water a day. But you can't get your female to drink the 10 glasses of water a day. So we make up like a little milkshake thing. And what we do is we take Espalac, which is really puppy milk, and we mix it maybe 1 part to 3 parts water. And we put it in a dog bowl in the fridge with ice cubes in it. And let it get really chilly. And then we'll just stir it up a little bit with a spoon so it's frothy, and we'll stick it right under her nose in the pen. Now she's so into her puppies, and she's so happy to be a mommy, she won't even come out to pee. You can't get her to go to the bathroom,
Right.
forget drink anything. And so when I put it under her nose, a lot of times she's busy with the puppies and she'll get to it in a minute or two. And then as soon as she starts drinking that, it's unbelievable how fast that goes down. And she just looks at you like, oh, thank God. Thank you so much. They're so appreciative of it. And it seems to give them unbelievable energy. And of course, if you give Espalac to a lab at a field trial, they can go on that for days without food. That gives them the energy to hunt the whole day. And so I figure that's got to be super nutrition for her, vitamin-wise and everything else-wise, right in the beginning when you don't want to overload her stomach.
Right.
The worst thing is to have a litter where they don't have enough milk. And then if you had to supplement on the side, they're losing all the natural immunity you get from her milk the first few days, which is so important to a puppy. So I desperately try to stay away from bottles or tube feeding or anything, and I just load her up with fluid. And what happens, usually it works so well that by the 2nd or 3rd day with this milkshake thing, she starts looking like Elsie the cow. And it's just like dripping off of her. So it works very well.
There's one other concoction that we use. It might be very similar to your milkshake, but it's 2 tablespoons of the egg substitute and a tablespoon of sugar and a half a cup of milk. And honestly, I have seen it put them in labor in 15 to 20 minutes. Now, whether it's the surge of the glucose,
Energy
and then you've got sustain with the protein, but it seems to work. And I'd rather do that than use medication if I don't have to.
Right. Yes, go ahead.
One of the reasons, too, that we don't put food and water in the box with the mother and the puppies is I find that they tend to want to bury it. And if I have water there, they'll spill the entire dish, and the box is soaked. So we can't leave anything in there with the puppies. You have to offer it to them and take it back out, or they bury everything.
Yeah. Sue, what do you offer your bitches during the...
Just water, ice chips. Also, like Espalac is good. If they will eat solid food, we'll give them puppy food, but not a whole lot. Usually
Wow.
they just
Gotta ease
aren't
them in.
interested in eating that much. They really are more into their
Yeah.
puppies. And
All right, now what age do you start weaning, and how do you start weaning your puppies?
No, I start about 4 weeks, and I make up a gruel. Put the puppy food in the blender till it's a powder. Add warm water, and put it in a nice little bowl and start there. I do it once a day for 3 days. Then I go to 2 times a day, and then to 3 times a day. And the mother's still going back and forth. And by the time they're 6 weeks, they're basically off her, because my bitches all tend to be like in the wilds. They will go back in to the puppy room and throw up whatever they've eaten
Yeah.
to give. And then that's my clue that that's it, guys. No more.
Yeah, that really is nature
And
taking
that's
over.
nature's way. And every one of my bitches do that. So I start around 4 weeks. If I have a very large litter of 13, I'll start about 3 weeks. But my general is 4 weeks. And by the time they're 6 weeks, they're eating regular puppy food just with warm water.
Linda, what do you do to wean?
I just wanted to divert back because
Sure.
when you said that, it reminded me of something about them. You know, it's animal instinct.
Right.
I have had bitches try to move these puppies frequently on me, and they like this cave-type atmosphere. And one of the solutions was to take a big sheet and put it over the whelping box, just leaving a little bit loose. And that gave them this cozy feeling where they were hiding away. So sometimes if the box is left open, it's not good enough for them, and they do have a tendency to want to start moving the puppies.
Yeah, but what age do you, and how do
Right.
you start weaning
But
them
we
off?
start at about 4 and a half. Whatever puppy food they're going to go on, I'll use a dilute of evaporated milk, and then I just make a gruel consistency, and just let it get thicker and thicker as they can tolerate it.
And Gordon?
Well, I like to give them at least exposure to a little weaning formula of some sort as soon as they're starting to stumble around. Doesn't mean that they have to eat it, but I feel anything that goes into them will take the strain off of mom. And if I'm trying to get her back in shape so she looks good enough for the show ring again, that's kind of important. I find that if you take the puppy chow and just put it in your blender and grind it down to sawdust and add the Espalac and a little bit of the baby food meat. They have those little jars that are pure meat, and they're like half the size of the regular baby food, and they cost twice as much. You get whatever you want, turkey or veal.
lamb, yeah.
Yes.
They love that, and so you mix that all together, and I find they just dive in there. And the best thing is to have one of those little saucer kind of puppy pans. It looks like a volcano in the middle, because that's like a little pig trough, and it kind of keeps them from falling in. If you just use a flat pan, they all just crawl on the food. And I think the only nutrition they get is maybe by osmosis through their navel. Because they're wearing more than they ate, there's no question. And then they all stick together in a big gluey mess. It's a nightmare. I had a phone call one time where I went out of the room and they had just finished eating and they all went into a pig pile. And everything dry. And then when I came back later, the whole pile was just moving like 20 little legs like this, one big pile of puppies, because they had stuck together. And I said, I'll never do that again. And that's when I changed from the normal weaning formulas to this baby food thing and the little pig trough thing. And now they stay a lot cleaner.
Betty, what do you use for your newfies?
Well, I don't consider it necessarily weaning. I more think of it in terms of supplementing, and I might start as early as 2 weeks. I start by individually feeding them small meatballs, and then I start adding the cereal that I have ground up in the blender, as you've spoken of, to the meat. And so I feed them individually. This way I know that everyone has gotten it. I know if they haven't gotten it, which one hasn't eaten and why. And I continue to feed them individually till they're really standing on their feet and moving around. And then, of course, I head them out of a pan. I continue doing this, and then the mother just goes in less and less. I don't have the mother just disappear all at once. So finally, I'm feeding them 3 times a day, and the mother maybe will feed them after I have fed them. And gradually she'll drop down to twice, and then maybe once a day, and then she's through.
Good. And Kathy?
Well, I find that I start at about 4 weeks, unless I've had an extremely large litter of maybe 4. And we mix up baby rice cereal with Espalac and honey for one meal. And then for another meal, I'll add in a canned puppy food. And we do it 4 or 5 times a day. But I put it in a saucer that I elevate, because if the puppies have to bend over into the dish, they won't bother, they fall into it. And I find that they'll nurse off the edge of the saucer. So I keep pushing the food to the side so they can nurse, because they can't actually eat. And we keep this up for until they're, somewhere around 6 weeks old. And and then I just add more and more meat, so it's less of a gruel each time.
Sue?
I also use the rice cereal, baby food, and Espalac. And I'll also use the little jars of baby meat. And it starts out real soupy at 4 weeks, and it gradually gets thicker as they go along.
What age do you like to see them off the mother?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay. Now, our last question. We want to know, a lot of people think they're going to go into breeding to make a whole lot of money on puppies. Do you make money having puppies?
No.
No.
This is a hobby. You do it for the love. You must realize you have to be responsible for these puppies, for the care of them, not just when they leave the house, but for life. If there's a problem, if you have a stud dog, you have to be responsible for his puppies. And the cost that's involved in caring properly for a puppy or a bitch, and the problems you can run into, can outweigh the amount that you're going to make off a few puppies. And if you're doing it for the money, you're in the wrong field. This is for love.
Anybody else?
I'd like to think of it, as you said, as a hobby, and we don't try to make money out of golfing or tennis. We don't expect to, and I don't expect to make money from puppies. I hope not to lose too much money, and I hope to have, we do have some wonderful experiences. There's also a lot of pain, and if you're not up to it, don't get into this.
Yeah, now this is if everything is going well.
Oh, yeah.
You can have a C-section.
Yes, C-sections.
You can lose a whole litter of puppies. You have to transport a bitch. You have to pay for your stud fee.
But
Vet
testing.
bills. Right, testing.
Testing.
In
All
Dow's,
those
we have to have
things.
them all tested for hearing. You're talking a lot of care and the heartache, as Betty said. That's the worst part.
And the work involved.
The work.
I mean, now we're talking puppies here with just regular, maybe having dew claws removed. With my breed, we have ear crops,
Mine
tail
too.
docks, dew claws. This gets very expensive, besides all the shots and
If we ever considered the number of hours that we put into it, our pay would be very, very, very
In
low.
the negative
It's
digits.
negative.
Probably
Yes.
B minus.
Yes.
I don't think people want to think about how much they spend in breeding and showing their dogs, because if you really realized how much it was, you couldn't even go out and get a job to pay for what we do as, quote, enjoyment. But it's something that we love. And there is a lot of heartache with having the puppies, but we talk about the puppies coming out and getting them going. And you have this little teeny body in your hand, and when it starts to breathe and it starts to cry, there's nothing you can compare to it. So then you don't mind spending your money again to do it.
But I'm sorry.
good.
But it is a responsibility.
Yes,
as
it
you
is.
said. And every year, thousands of dogs are euthanized. So quality should go to quality. And if people have a female and feel she is of good substance, she really should go around to several breeders and ask their opinion. I realize it's subjective, but at least get people's opinion. And then the testing involved. There's usually breed-specific testing. Or in this breed, you've got eyes, you've got thyroid, you've got BWD, and hips. This is costly to do this testing, but that's what should be done in order to put out a decent quality puppy.
Sure. Gordon, what do you think?
Well, we have people over the house first to see if they're even a suitable home for the litter. We won't take a reservation on a litter until we've spent time once or twice with prospective dog owners. And we shake them down pretty good, and between the phone calls and the people tramping through your house, you have no life. And what happens is and we torture them with like a 2-hour lecture about how to take care of a puppy. And if they survive that, then we feel, okay, there's a chance that this little beautiful thing that we brought into the world will have a good life. Even doing all that, there's not a year goes by that I don't have 1 or 2 dogs that I brought into the world that I find out are mistreated, or that are running loose, or that have been hit by a car due to neglect, or that aren't taken care of and they want to give it back to me. And that's part of the responsibility. I don't think people, when they say, oh, let's just have a litter and it'll be nice for our kids to see it, I don't think they realize what it's like 2 years later to have a dog come back to you that's totally obnoxious, barking, biting, nutty, with no training, and also neglected or wormy, and see what condition it's in and have that awful feeling that you're responsible for this dog. You're responsible for the life of the dog. And then to have to go and take it into your house, have it disrupt your house, and get it in some sort of condition and trained up enough that it could be a suitable pet somewhere else. Every year, there's hundreds and hundreds of labs put down in shelters because there are so many people that buy a puppy on a whim. And so as a breeder, you really have to follow the dog for the life of the dog. And unless you're prepared to do that, you shouldn't be having a litter.
Yeah, absolutely. Sue, what do you think?
I think that dogs are very wonderful, special creatures that should be valued, each and every one of them, and they shouldn't be just a Christmas present on a whim. You should be prepared to take care of your dog for life, and as a breeder, you should always be prepared to take them back. Like Gordon's saying, even if they are wild and crazy, you will always say, I tell all the people, if for any reason you're going to part with your dog, please bring it back to me. I will find a home for it. Don't take it to the pound. So I don't want that.
We have that in our contract. That,
Right, first.
that no matter when the dog is,
Right.
you're getting rid of it, we get it back, because we do a lot of rescue work.
Right.
And in this breed with the deafness, it's a total nightmare, because at the puppy places, they're selling dowels that are totally deaf, and people who don't know how to handle them, it's a problem. So,
Now, we, in standards, whenever we sell puppies, we insist that they take them into obedience.
oh yes.
They're an
Puppy
aggressive
kindergarten.
breed, gentle, but they full of energy, and I want the people to enjoy them. And they're not going to enjoy them not getting them under control. I mean, it's not like a toy breed that if it gets out of control, it's not going to do too much damage.
This is out of control down here.
You know, a standard Schnauzer or an Akita or some of the big breeds, they've got to be kept controlled so that you can enjoy them.
They eat sofas and other things.
I think we all agree
Yes.
we're not making money.
It's a very,
That's not why we're
you know,
here.
the
No.
testing, the C-sections, the stud fees, the air flights.
The night you sit up crying over a puppy that's dying in your arms.
Yes.
And then yet the people that do it right, when somebody calls you back 15 years later because their dog died and they want another one,
Right.
then you know these are the people that did it right. And that's who should continue to breed, and really not the people that don't want to take that responsibility. That's what makes the whole thing worthwhile.
Right.
The Christmas cards that you
Right.
get, somebody has a question, where can I get another breed? It's not even your breed, but they know they can trust you. That's where they bought their dog. And they call you every question they have. And that's part of buying a dog too.
Yes, is being there for them for
Yes.
every question.
For every question.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all. This has been informative, interesting, and I can't thank you enough for bringing these wonderful dogs.
And this is not a Dalmatian.
And we hope that all of you out there, if you decide that you do want to breed your puppies or your bitches, that you will have wonderful, healthy, happy puppies. Thank you.
This concludes Special Delivery. We hope you found the tape informative and helpful.